Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Sutner.
And I'm Drea Brit. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you, everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
We'll bring you the expert interviews, insightful discussions, and practical tips to make motherhood a little easier and help your family thrive.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to replace the advice, diagnosis, or treatment plans you have with your personal healthcare team. Please have a conversation with your trusted healthcare provider prior to making any changes or implementing any strategies or advice you learn from this podcast.
Whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Here at the Motherhood Alliance podcast, we challenge the status quo, ask the tough questions, and offer a supportive community for moms who want to make an informed, holistic choice.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Sandra Carpenter, who is a board-certified, full-time classical homeopathic practitioner and the owner of Source Healing Homeopathy. So years ago, Sandy was introduced to homeopathy as she was searching for a more holistic approach to help her 2 sons. And in 2017, after a 25-plus year career as a civil engineer, she realized that homeopathy was a career she wanted to pursue, so she did the one thing she said she would never do. She went back to school. In the spring of 2021, she completed her 4-year professional homeopathic practitioner training. And that same year, she ended her engineering career and focused on her homeopathy practice full-time. Sandy knows without a doubt that homeopathy saved her family from a life dependent on medications. Her favorite quote is from Charles Rappel, who wrote, "Take the I out of illness, add we, and you have wellness." I love that. She believes strongly in working in partnership with her clients as they take control of their overall wellness and vitality, and she works with clients as young as infants all the way to elderly and everyone in between. She also has a personal interest in working with emergency first responders like law enforcement, fire dispatchers, veterans, and their families. Sandy lives in Appleton, Wisconsin with her husband Ryan and their 2 dogs, Lily and Maddox. And for this series, we recommend listening to it in order, as Sandy provides insight into what homeopathy is and how it works in episode 1, then everything you need to know about homeopathic remedies in episode 2, using homeopathy in everyday life in episode 3, and then finally raising kids with a homeopathic approach in episode 4. So the episodes do kind of build upon each other. We loved learning from Sandy, and we know that you will too. So let's dive into today's conversation.
Hey, welcome back to our episode number 4 that we have with Sandy from Source Healing Homeopathy. We're so excited to have you back here.
Thank you.
This one, we're going to have a really interesting conversation, I think. We're going to be talking about raising kids with a homeopathic approach. So I think that maybe what if we just start off with talking about homeopathic treatments that we can use for infants or for babies, or, what kinds of things you have to say about that, or what can moms know about, being proactive for their kids?
Well, I think first and foremost, whether you are going to want to help your family on your own, try and figure out a remedy to give your family in the moment on your own, or reach out to a homeopath for help. I think it's so important for people to have a home remedy kit, because, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about what do we want in our medicine cabinet, you need to have the things available to you in the moment. 3 a.m., you might not be able to find a homeopathic remedy at Walgreens.
Yeah, or want to leave.
Yeah. Right. So you want to shuffle down to your bathroom. So I really encourage anyone who is interested to invest in getting a homeopathic kit, which we have talked about different sources, and those are going to be in the show notes, but you can get kits directly from me. You can order some kits online, but I can't stress the importance of that enough, because there's nothing more frustrating and feeling helpless, especially as a mom, when you want to help your kid and you don't have the thing.
Right. Or you don't want to use, Tylenol necessarily or whatever. So when you have like your home kits, for example, you have, I assume you don't just hand it off and say, here you go. You probably just say, you probably have some things in there that might explain the different remedies, or you maybe have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, like does it come with a manual?
Yeah.
The kits don't come with a manual. I'm not going to order someone a kit without understanding, have you ever used homeopathy before, to be able to provide them some guidance. I do provide people reference material. Like there's some really good books available that you can find in the local bookstore. You can even find on Amazon. That is a really wonderful place for people to start to learn about the different remedies and in what situations would you use particular remedies. The one I like a lot is called The Best Family Homeopathy Acute Care Manual, and it's by Kate Birch. She's a certified classical homeopath. There's another one called The Complete Homeopathy Guide by Miranda Castro. That's a really popular one.
Okay, we'll link to those in the show notes too.
Yeah, those two are really, really, really great if someone is interested in wanting to have something on hand at home and learn how to be able to help their family in the moments in acute care situations.
That's
Well,
awesome.
Perfect.
Well, so I think we're diving right in at a perfect spot because many parents, especially, I mean, really, it doesn't matter how old your kids are, but I think if you're talking about ones who have not yet had kids or are currently pregnant, and this is just like a journey they're stepping into, right? And it can be overwhelming. And it's like, oh, am I going to have the kid that makes multiple ER visits, like broken bones jumping off to things they shouldn't be? But even without that, there's so many, kids get fevers and kids get all these different things as they're growing up. So how can one become an expert within their own home? So you gave those 2 books, but like, what are some other recommendations that you have on really helping a parent become comfortable with homeopathy?
Well, one of the first things is also to be aware of the homeopaths in your community.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
We recently were very fortunate here in Northeast Wisconsin. There are 8 classical homeopaths, and we just recently created the Great Lakes Homeopathy Collective. And the goal is to educate the public about homeopathy, empower people to be able to turn to homeopathy, understand what it is, and use it for themselves in their home. We recently just had our inaugural conference, which was in May. It was an all-day event. We had sponsors. We had 8 different breakouts, conference topics. We had a breakout session. It was fantastic. And the feedback we received was amazing about how valuable the information was and how empowered people felt leaving that event. So we are planning another event, likely won't be until February of 2025. But I would encourage anybody who would like to be notified of this information to, reach out to me, and I can put you on our notification list because we're going to start planning for that this fall. So that would be the first and foremost, because a lot of times also homeopaths will give workshops. We'll have our own independent little classes that will teach people so they can feel empowered doing this on their own.
Yeah, that's incredible. Maybe I see a course in Sandy's future.
Yes.
That might be all in good time, right?
Right.
No, that's incredible. I love that. Number one, there's so many homeopaths in our area, which is part of the reason of Motherhood Alliance, right? Like we want to bring these resources that are local to you and bring them forefront and make them easier to find, because many people wouldn't even know that.
Some people
they
don't
just
even know what homeopath is.
Right. Well, they go straight to Google, and there's people that can help answer a lot of your questions and save you a lot of time. So for someone who's not in Northeast Wisconsin, is there a certain website that they can go to like search for homeopath within their region? Like, is there a certifying board?
There's 2 different places where I would encourage people to go. So the National Center for Homeopathy, they are the national organization in the United States for all things homeopathy. I really would encourage people to go to their website. They also offer free like tutorial graphics that are free to the public. You can get all sorts of information from their website. They also have a database. So you can search for a homeopath if they're listed, if they're affiliated with the National Center of Homeopathy in your state. So that would be one location. The other location is the Council for Homeopathic Certification. So that's the agency in which, we get our certification boards through. They will also have a list of certified classical homeopaths and where they are located.
Is there a benefit to meeting with a homeopath in person? Or I know people can meet with you virtually, but is that the same level of care, or is there a benefit to finding one in your community?
It's the same level of care. It just depends upon, is someone close to you? Or do you want to meet in person? And how do you feel that you are kind of connecting well with that homeopath? I would encourage anybody interested in working with a homeopath to schedule a lot of homeopaths. We have like free informational phone calls. Like I offer a 30-minute free video call, and anybody who is new to homeopathy or just interested and has questions can schedule a free appointment with me, and we meet and I can answer all of their questions and explain, what care looks like. And most homeopaths will offer that. So I encourage anybody new to take advantage of that and make sure that you feel comfortable with the person that you're talking with, because as we've talked about, you're going to get asked a lot of questions.
A lot of deep questions. Better be ready to answer them. Yep.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into actually talking about those kiddos, starting with infants. Now, if you guys have not listened to the prior 3 episodes in this series, make sure that you do, because there are some nuggets you're not going to want to miss in those episodes. And I know we touched on this briefly, but can you share, can homeopathic treatments be used on infants?
Homeopathic remedies absolutely can be used on infants because they're safe, they're non-toxic, they're gentle. There's different ways that you can have infants take the remedies. We can dilute them in water. Some common symptoms, that we would see with infants, babies who are experiencing symptoms from maybe colic.
Oh, that would be a big one.
That is a big one.
Constipation?
Constipation is another big one, for baby, or diarrhea, those types of symptoms. Those are some real common infant stage, types of situations. Sleep, when the sleep is, infants don't normally sleep very well to begin with, but there are some infants that their sleep pattern is way out of whack, so a lot of times remedies can help with that as well too.
How about fevers?
Fevers. Yep. Fevers are usually something though that is in addition to something else, right? And not all fevers need to be addressed. It's just a matter of, okay, what are the symptoms of the fever and how is it impacting the baby and how is it impacting the child? Fevers are the body's friend. Yeah. There's a purpose for the fever, but just like with everything, if something kind of gets stuck in an intense state, then we want to help support so that it can get moved through.
Yeah. Now, I know that each person is different. And so when someone is going through something, they really should look at the symptoms in depth and probably even talk to you. But in general, for like if a kiddo is coming down with a cold or a fever, either one of those, and these would be different remedies, do you have any specific remedies that you would recommend? Like, what are the most common ones that people can start with if a kiddo is getting sick?
Well, the most common one, and this is especially, it's for those situations where it comes on out of the blue. It's suddenly like your kiddo was running around and was totally fine, and now they're like laying out on the couch and you're like, what the heck just happened? So something that happens like suddenly intense out of the blue, aconite. So, and that could even be with like an injury that is sudden, like aconite. Aconite is for those states that just seem to come out of the blue. So that is a good one to always think. And if you have that one on hand, to give aconite.
Well, if you have your home kit, then you do have it on hand. So.
Yes, you do. So I would definitely have aconite. And, another one, and again, I caution, you don't always just grab this. You have to look at the specific nature of the symptoms. But you mentioned fever states, belladonna is a very common for a fever state, but it's the fever state where their eyes are glossed over, or if your kiddo's not feeling well and has other symptoms, but they have the glossy eyed and they're hot and there's just this, heat about them and they're kind of glazed over and their pupils are big, that's likely going to match a belladonna state. But if they don't have that kind of red, flush, glossy eyed look, then I would not grab for belladonna. If it came on sudden, always start with aconite.
What about tummy aches? Is there something that can help with tummy aches? Because now remedies are typically, we've talked about this in the remedy episode, so please go back and listen to that. But they're typically these little pellets that you dissolve under your tongue, right? So it's not like it's something that you're drinking and putting into your stomach,
Right.
But what about tummy aches?
Yeah, there are quite a few remedies for tummy aches, symptoms from tummy aches, vomiting, nausea. That can be very specific though. What is making that better or worse? We all probably have had the situation with the kiddo that they had an upset stomach but they were thirsty and they drank the water and then immediately threw the water up. That's going to be a very specific remedy. I would encourage you to get one of those 2 reference books that I just talked about, because they will break down the differences for tummy aches. There are some combination products that are called cell salts that are kind of homeopathic. That Highlands brand, I think, was a brand that was talked about, that are for indigestion. If someone just wants to have something on hand, that could be a go-to, but I would really recommend get one of those reference books, because they both do a beautiful job of kind of breaking down the specifics so you know which remedy to grab. Yeah.
I have a question. With the remedies, are there expiration dates?
The vials that you buy over the counter will have an expiration date because FDA law requires that you have to. If a remedy is properly stored, and by that I mean it's stored away from direct sunlight or heat, very fragrant products, just kind of in a cabinet somewhere, they don't expire.
What about scrapes and bruises?
Yes, there's some really great remedies. Calendula is a great remedy for whenever there's like a skin wound. There is a homeopathic tincture of calendula. So it's close to the mother tincture, like what we talked about in the episode about how remedies are made. But it's made homeopathically, that I recommend to everybody to have in your home. I think we have gone through gallons of that in my own family. It's a wonderful tincture that you just put right on, scrapes and wounds and things like that. Common remedies for like bee stings or bites or things like that could be apis or ledum. Those are 2 really, really common remedies for those types of situations.
And those are a tincture?
No, the apis and the ledum are going to be more the remedy. Okay. Calendula, there is a remedy pellet made calendula, but you can also get a tincture. I have the tincture at my office that I get from the pharmacy, but I really like to use that for like the scrapes and the scrapes and road rashy type of thing. Yeah. First.
It makes sense, because if you have it, it seems like you want to put something on it, But yeah, it's just really interesting.
If I was going on a hike with lots of rocks to climb on with my kids, do you have kits? I'm assuming there's kits you can buy, but do you have any in your office that people could buy for like travel or adventure kits? Things that are where you don't need your whole home kit, but you're like, we are probably going to need something on this little adventure we're going to go on.
Yep. Yeah. We definitely have some travel kits, or can have some travel kits made up. Specifically, I had a friend who they were going on a cruise. So the travel kit I made up for them had a little bit more of the remedies that you may need if you happen to have symptoms from seasickness, in addition to some other type of remedies that would be supportive, especially, if like arnica is a great one to have. Someone falls down, bumps their head, or, some sort of blunt injury. Arnica is a great one to have on hand no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really good point that you just made too, is that working with a homeopath, the benefit is that you can have a custom kit created for whatever circumstance or adventure you're going to go on. So that's a really good thing to mention. Let's fast forward in age a little bit and talk about puberty. So this is a big change in hormones, emotions, growth. How can you support puberty?
Oh, homeopathy supports kids going through those major, major milestones beautifully. And I saw that firsthand with my own kids. It just, all of the changes that are happening, mental, emotional, physical, the fast and furious physical changes that are happening, even with young girls as they get their period and they start going through that whole part of their life, homeopathic care on a constitutional level provides them the support as they're going through those rapid changes, in addition to supporting them on that mental emotional, because there's a lot of mental emotional symptoms that can be expressed during that time, especially, in the realm of symptoms from anxiety and depression and, the social anxieties that could come out with some people, and if we talk about the skin, then there's, acne that a lot of kids deal with, and the mental emotional impact of having the acne, so constitutional care for kids in that time of their lives is beautifully supportive.
Well, I'm glad I'm learning that before my kids are hitting that age, because it's a little scary. It's a really hard time of life to go through.
It is. It certainly is. And then we adjust, it isn't just they're on one remedy through that whole phase, because they're not the same person through that whole phase. So you're constantly adjusting to what is the need that needs to be met.
So like if I'm thinking puberty too, a lot of like acne and things like that, to have support through homeopathy is amazing. But do you see with your clients, are they working with like nutritionists, or are they working with like functional medicine along with homeopathy, or do they tend to have results, see a lot of results with just homeopathy? What do you see?
I have a combination. I do have some clients that are seeing other practitioners with other modalities. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And then I have some clients who were with other modalities and then started to work with me. With the puberty piece of it too, I also have clients that were referred to me from counselors. And so they're seeing their counselor, and their counselor referred them to me for additional support. And then what's beautiful about that is the counselor and I can work together as a team to help support the client through those phases.
I can see that being amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this episode here, we're just touching the surface, but I feel like this is so encouraging to know that it really can help with any of these challenges that we experience as parents. So to wrap this up, I do want to mention that Sandy is offering $10 off an acute care consultation and 10% off of a home remedy kit to any of the listeners. If you want to connect with her, just reference the Motherhood Alliance podcast and you can take advantage of those. And again, she is located in Appleton, Wisconsin, but if you are not near this area, she does offer virtual services as well. So Sandy, I think that this has been such an enlightening series. We have learned so much. We've covered so much through these 4 episodes. So I encourage you guys to go back and listen to all 4 if you haven't already. But I think it's been incredible to know that we have homeopathic remedies at our fingertips. I know for sure I am interested in those home kits and just learning more and continuing to learn more from you. So how can people connect with you?
You can find me at my website, sourcehealinghome.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, but it's probably easiest to go to my website. You can email me from there, or you get my email address. You can even book one of the free 30-minute, video calls that I talked about right from my website that way too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for helping our families to be healthy.
Oh, well, thank you both for this. This was so much fun.
So much fun. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.